Welcome on to this edition of Run with Coach Parry. I'm Brad Brown. We've got the coach with us once again, Lindsay Parry. How's it?
Very good, Brad. Awesome to chat again. How are you doing?
Yeah, very, very good. And definitely great to chat again. We are sort of in the midst where it's a new year and everyone's fired up and running. And there's lots of marathon training going on, which I quite like. And today's question popped up in the forums on the Coach Parry online training platform, and I think it is a great one. This member was asking, how do you determine what your race pace is for a marathon? I think it's a great question, and I think one that not enough people are asking.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to give a very basic sort of almost rule of thumb way to do it, because typically if I'm going to calculate it, I do use a 5K and a 10K and a half marathon time to try and determine if you're improving as you're going longer, or if you're getting better as you're going longer, and then we can do some slight tweaks. But essentially, if you're running 5K races fairly hard, or you've got some decent 5K times, I reckon from a 5K to a 10K, you can be between 5 if you're very, very conditioned, and 8 or 9 seconds per K slower, you'll be able to hold for a 10K. And then you will be in the region of 8 to 12, 13 seconds per K slower when you then move from that 10 to the 21, and then from the 21 to the marathon, you're probably also looking around 8 to 10 in a very conditioned person, or somebody who gets relatively better as time goes by. You're probably looking at about 8 seconds per K slower, up to around 15 seconds per K. And obviously, if you're someone who struggles and gets slower as you go longer, then you're probably looking at more along the lines of 16, 17, 18 seconds per K. So that's kind of how you can set on, if for example, you only had a 5K time, you could kind of progress it along, bearing in mind that the shorter the distances you're using to predict, the more guessing is going on in between steps. So probably the best place to guess from is your best half marathon, and then somewhere in the region of 8 if you are extremely fit and get better with distance, and about 15%, seconds per kilometer would be your normal sort of drift off.
Lindsay, it's important, obviously, to know your marathon pacing, because the last thing you want to do is realize at about 32 Ks in a marathon that you've got it wrong. So having these calculations on what you should be running your marathon at is important. And like you say, there's a bit of variation if you don't have a 21K time, if you're working it on your 5K time. But having these things and making sure that you stick to it is important if you are going to achieve the marathon goal you set out to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you are aiming, or in a marathon, really, what we're trying to do, provided the two halves of the race are fairly similar in terms of profile, and if you're not dealing with extreme environments like very, very cold or extremely hot, then we want to approach a marathon in a fairly even paced time. So aiming to be at halfway, no more than 1.5 to 2 minutes faster in the first half than you intend to run the entire race. And that, as you said, is why it's important to stick to that plan, because at the beginning of the marathon, we can feel extremely fresh and good and feel like it's our day. You push it really hard, and then all of a sudden, somewhere between 21 Ks or 13 miles and 16 Ks and say 16 miles and or 25 Ks, that's when you start to feel, oh, I've overdone it, and you've still got quite a lot of race left to go. And in a marathon, the last 3 miles or call it 5 kilometers really are telling, and we can lose 30 seconds to a minute per K easily if our legs really have taken a hammering.
Yeah, you always say, and I always mess it up, but I'm going to paraphrase you, you're going to have to do it properly, but you are a firm believer that you'll never sort of make up enough time by going out too hard in the first half, that's what you'll lose in the second if you go out too fast. I think I've messed that up, but explain that in a bit more detail.
Look, I think the sentiment will be understood, and that's to say that I always say you can never put enough time in the bag by going out too hard to save more than you'll lose in the second half. So you'll always lose more in the second half than intended if you go out with that sort of strategy. And I'd say it's probably somewhere in the region of 2 minutes for every minute that you go through too fast through halfway is what you'll lose in the second half.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to get the pacing right. I've tried the go until you blow strategy. It's not pretty. So, yeah, definitely heed this advice. Lindsay, as always, great to catch up. Don't forget as well, if you want to win, all you need to do is check out our audio podcast, okay? We're running a great promotion. It's all part of the hashtag Biogen Journey, where we're following James Hobson's journey to Ironman 70.3. And if you share your Biogen journey on the social medias, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just use the hashtag Biogen Journey. Tell us what you are training for and what you need help with. Yeah, you could be winning access to the Coach Parry online training platform. It's a phenomenal platform. There are over 60 training programs. You get access to Lindsay and the rest of our coaching staff in the forums, strength and conditioning programs, the work. So definitely go check that out as well. But use the hashtag, okay? It is Biogen Journey, and we could be picking it up and making you a winner. And make sure to listen to our audio podcast as well to find out if you are a winner. Lindsay, as always, great to catch up. Thanks for your time today. We look forward to catching up again next week.
Chat soon, Brad.